Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, everyone. How is everyone doing? We getting to half over already. Good morning, Patrick. Hey, Sterling. Well, thanks for tuning in when you can. Remember, your primary job is still the most important one. The markets will always be here. All right. Hey, everybody in the background, don't be afraid to jump in and say hi in the chat. All right, so we had retail inventories come out flat this morning. Forecast point one, is that correct? I'm going to just double check that here because sometimes those numbers are a bit off. It was, oh, they don't even have a forecast, but it came out flat. Wholesale inventories came out negative. Forecast of point one. We have Powell speaking in roughly 25 minutes. So Jay Powell speaking. And then we got crude numbers, and that's it. Stress tests after the cash close. I doubt any bank's going to fail it, though. Hey, Christoph. Hey, Chris. Can we peek at coin after bit? We'll take a look. So where do we sit? It's going to be all if Jay Powell says anything today. We had the rally yesterday, but it sure changed this morning. The chips are taking it. Remember, we're following that double on AMD, the double top, and I said I was watching for that little bounce yesterday. We got it. Now we should be rolling over again. Nvidia down. I think Nvidia. We don't have the major topping pattern yet. Again, I'm watching where it closes in relationship to the daily rotation zone, and we are very overextended from the weekly rotation zone. But we could be in the process of forming a major topping pattern. Now, Netflix up a bit to 154 basis points this morning. Tesla's continuing its slight bounce, but I think that's forming a major topping pattern too. The market is looking very toppy going into quarter end. We had a lot of short-term call buying and squeeze play yesterday, but it was still in the NASDAQ, and the Qs were inside day to Monday still, even with that those momentum bars. So, basic materials, dollar stronger today, did not invalidate the double bottom and is moving back on up. Basic materials are pulling back technology. Comm services leading it down. So this is definitely a rotation with healthcare, financial, and industrials leading this morning. So you could say it is the risk off day, as they say on financial media. It's a rotation into some of the more defensive stocks so far this morning. We'll have to see if that follows through at the cash open. The Fed watch tool is still pricing in one rate hike. Fear and greed with the rally yesterday back into extreme greed. So in terms of gamma, we're trading right above that 44. We're 44.07 right now, 44.708 in that area. We still have that key gamma area at 4,400, and we're back into positive gamma territory, which means any rally gets sold into besides what's juiced up with the short-term options. And when they go off like they did yesterday, you get that major momentum. But this 4,400 level is still key. It's like a tractor beam. It's like a tractor beam. So that's the level I am really focused on. Remember, Micron after the close, and chips are already selling off. Micron has some bad results. Chips are already getting hit. Semiconductors. That's pretty much the big thing after the close today. So here's what I'm talking about. This is a NASDAQ. Higher, low, and lower high. Even with this huge rally, it's still an inside day for Monday. I mean, it was up 172 basis points, but that still managed an inside day. And the slight pullback still technically on the higher time frame, a flagging pattern. If we bounce into the open and cannot exceed yesterday's 1 p.m. high, I will be watching. We do not have a potential double top yet, but I will be watching for a potential double top. And then if that triggered, we could go back into the low areas from yesterday and the bottom of the channel. Other than that, if we do break above, you see this key resistance. I'll just start with NASDAQ, then we'll go into the S&P. If we do break above this 15,140 to 15,150 area, we enter the 50% retracement to the 62.5. So that's the big rollover zone. The only thing that keeps me going substantially bullish into quarter end is if we can get a close above 15,242. That's the only thing. Because if we don't form a double top here and we do push higher, I'll be watching for key resistance, minors 15,175, major cluster areas about 15,200 to 15,210. And that's well before the 15,242. So that lays out. So right there is what I am watching for. But if we can't get up to those highs, I will watch for a potential double top. Also, it's a clear path move with those momentum bars from yesterday. You can see it here. The breakout. And you can clearly see the momentum bars breaking yesterday. This was the trigger point right here. Learn to spot these. And then it was the ride and then petering out in the afternoon and nothing going on overnight. So that's what I'm keeping. But this created some clear path to the downside. So that's why if we especially start breaking back below 15,000, we could see at least a partial retrace. If you're going to use short-term levels, right now it would be roughly about 14,996 and then 14,960 would be the first two key levels I'd be looking at, assuming we don't take out the 15,139 high. Hey, Jacob. Yeah, you got to wait for the patterns to trigger. There are times you can do some front-running stuff, but then if they don't trigger, you got to close it out. There are times, but I think for most traders, they should wait for patterns to trigger. Don't try to guess. In the S&P, don't try to project that they're going to trigger because they may very well not. We'll take a look, Sterling. Let's see if we can. So, again, S&P, we had the momentum. That was a little great one-bar pause, too, right there. But we're trading back at that one-bar pause level. What am I looking for here? Well, this technically triggered a very aggressive percent B buy yesterday. On the shorter term, same thing with the NASDAQ. If we do roll up into the open, we'll watch for the potential double top. Okay. If we push down, keeping an eye on that 4,400 area, because look, this is the breakout. This is resistance right here. That is major support, and that's also the major gamma wall area. So 4,400 is major support. If we don't form that potential double, it's not even a potential double top yet. It's still a way off from there. And then 43.97, 43.90 are the key levels. If we backfill, but the flag also was triggered here. Now, in order for me to stay overly bullish, if we break above yesterday's high, the 50% retracement and harmonic projection, 44.31. Minor, then we have 44.38, and majors 44.46.75 on a closing basis. That's the only thing. Even if we can pull out another rally today, the only thing that keeps me bullish through quarter end is the close above 44.46.75. The ES was stronger than the NASDAQ. Hey, Richard. We'll get Bob back on. Don't worry about that. So that's exactly what I'm watching for. Let's just get through this. The Dow does have a potential double top. The Dow potential double top. So that's on weakness. That's what I'll be watching. That's where we sit with that. And that's not a huge reversal pattern. That's a minor reversal pattern. Remember, and things can keep going after minor reversal patterns, but it's not a major topping pattern yet. The Russell, the key level that I'll be watching for more upside is only if it gets above 1890 on the closing basis. 1877 on any rally is the next key level. VIX still no fear in this market. No fear. It actually didn't drop as much yesterday with that strong rally, but 15 is still the level I'm watching for. The DAX, we're finally getting some follow through with cycles at the bottom. Moving back up. Also did not cover, but the cycles are heading back up on the daily. So remember, down on the weekly, up on the daily. I'll really start getting interested in significant topping when we get back to top. So top on the daily, top on the weekly. What else do we have? Notes, still nothing. Nothing. By the way, did you see the big bounce in the 10-2s yesterday? Closing at pretty much the levels from the March lows, minus 100 basis points. And today, the big pop up. The big pop up. Very interesting right there. Keep an eye on what's the 10-2 yield curve. The dollar coming down 62.5. Look, where the key level I was watching on the closing basis at 102.06 area. What was the close yesterday? 102.08. So still closing above that. So it pulled back, trigger, pull back between the peak and the candle bodies. I've talked about that many times, closing right at that level, and then the rotation up. It would have needed a close below 101.93 on a closing basis to take the double off the table. So still, the dollar is in force today, although cycles are at the top on the daily, not yet at the bottom on the weekly. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Crude holding the key support. By the way, this is a little mini double bottom. I should say a potential double bottom in here, but it would need at least a 4-hour close above 70.15. All right, that's only a short-term play within consolidation. But this key support, if the 67 area does break, we could see a really quick move down in crude. Also, please keep that in mind too. Gold still technically has this minor little double bottom in it, but it's a long way off from triggering. And remember, potential patterns are not triggered patterns. This pattern isn't even confirmed yet. All right. So if we trade below about 1912, it is off the table. On the closing basis, 1913.80. If we close below there, I'll be watching for the continued downward move. So again, if we continue with the dollar strength, we could see some pressure on commodities today. What else? Yen, we're back at the next harmonic area. The double is off the table. That never confirmed or triggered, of course. So there's an example of a potential pattern that was just a potential. And I'm watching, we're above the 62.5. I'm watching for us to get to this 145.76 area now. That would take us into major double top territory. Not saying that this rally has to end, but I am watching once we enter major double top territory. Euro, watching for a stronger pattern than this in there. The pound, we had the double top. Looks like it's going to trigger today. So we could see some more pullback in the pound. Bitcoin still moving sideways at the prior support level. Not a great pattern, but you got to stay, unless it really starts backfilling and breaks this support area, it's still potentially short-term bullish. You want a coin? If coin can keep going above about 70, then you have the gap magnet. still. 77.14. That's the only thing bullish. Is trading against very key resistance right now. Very key resistance. But if it can break above there, then you still have the gap. That would be the next target I'd utilize. Now, your pullback level support's coming in at 65. So as long as you don't get a close back below 65, I'd be watching for that breakout. But if you get the close back below 65, it broke back down below some key support. So be careful with that one. Tesla, just with this head and shoulders, watching for another rollover play here. So nothing's really changed with that. Was watching for the bounce yesterday, which we got. Now we'll be watching for the rollover play. NVIDIA, real quick, we'll get the spiders and the Qs. NVIDIA, I'm watching the rotation zone on a closing basis, roughly 398, 399 area, trading 404 right now. That's what I'm watching. If we do drop below that, then the major support's back at 375. Remember AMD got the little bounce in that yesterday, but 105.64 and 102 are the final targets on this double top. So we'll be watching for the rollover in the short term back on AMD. Spiders, pretty much the same thing, holding the rotation zone, a percent B buy, aggressive percent B buy with cycles still going up yesterday. The key areas on the spiders, 437.50, then 439. It needs a close about 439.13 to keep the bullish case going. Support, your support coming in about 434.90, and we're trading 435.21. On any rally, first thing I'd watch for is the gap fill to 436.15. But the support in the spiders, 434.90. The Qs, inside day, as I mentioned, same as the NASDAQ, 355.22, needs 367.13 to continue the rally on the closing basis. Little gap down this morning, so the first play on any bullish would be the 363.83 for the gap fill. Support, let's see if we can find a decent support level. About 361.60, 361.50 to 361.60 is your key short-term support level. There you got the spiders. Let's see. What else? Let me use a car. Just trying to get through these things. Again, car. Let me take off this from before. Still chugging now. It looks like it's finally, this has taken a long time. Pulling back. Then you got the other little solid bottom right there, but finally going to hit the stop reduction. Finally going to hit the stop reduction. So now your key level, the farthest away your stop would be, I'm just assuming it's going to hit 49.78. This would be close enough. Anyways, this would be close enough. When it's this close, I'd be raising my stop. The farthest away I'd take a stop on the closing basis would be 39.32, and that would even take out all the support wedge. That would be the farthest away your stop would be at this point, because that would invalidate the pattern. But that one took a while. Again, you got to trust the patterns. Not all of them work out. That's why there's probabilities, but you got to stick with it if you're trading. Don't second guess and don't, oh wait, it's breaking down. No, wait, it's bullish mode. Sterling's been tracking this for a long time. Palantir. Like, nice little pullback so far to the rotation zone. But it stays technically in bullish mode above 1145. Technically, in bullish mode. However, the candle from let me look, hold on. That's the longer, let me get back to the daily. The problem is on the daily, let's see. It's still in longer term bullish mode, but if it starts breaking down and cannot sustain any move back above about 1450, a sustained move above 1450, I'd be watching for the rollover play back to 1256, which would take it back into the weekly rotation zone. So if you're looking for an intraday level, you start breaking below about 1360, I'd be targeting that 50 EMA. And you still do have some gaps left behind that are not filled below here. So still technically in longer term bullish mode, but in shorter term looks like it can break down unless it can regain this support level on a closing basis. You're welcome, Heinrich. Hey, my man. Hey, Christoph. Hey, PMG, you're welcome. AV, and then we will wrap it up. So it looks like you're getting a gap up. This doesn't look like it's reversing enough to qualify as a double, but let's see. It's technically, yeah. Longer term, not saying this will ever trigger, but that's your longer term play against the 200 area has held. Remember, it's an area. So that's held in these recent lows. But the bigger pattern, you'd need a close above the high of 148 on a closing basis. And then the major targets would be 106.15 and 108.99. Would not ignore that 108.99 if that triggers. You see here, that's a pretty key resistance area. In the short term, though, it needs to really regain 97 on a closing basis. Okay, so that's, and then if you do break below, where would be the key level I'd utilize on a closing basis for the downside? I'd be looking at about 88.50. You close back below 88.50, would not want to touch this thing. You could see a lot lower price action then. Trade so gappy because because it's a Japanese stock and it's gonna gap around a lot based off of what the markets do overseas. That's why. So I mean, it's a Japanese company, so you're going to see the extra gaps, and based off what the yen's doing too. So you're going to get, there's a lot of really big gaps. You have to trade. If I'm trading something like Toyota Motors, I'm using a weekly chart. I am using a weekly chart and getting my levels off a weekly chart. That's personally how I do it. All right, with that, I got to run into the open, 2 minutes to the open. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Let's just double check the short-term S&P. So trading against very key support going in the open, and Powell also speaking at the open. So keep an eye on that. Remember, we still have a 15-minute clear path move. So that's something to keep an eye out into the open, and I shall talk to everyone later. Have a wonderful trading day. Bye for now.